what the main focus turning points you have mentioned in this book?
I should confess to you that originally I wanted to write a book about my experiences and what I had learned both through being an interlocutor but also through the civil society interactions. But it was the publishers who wanted a more comprehensive historical survey. And I'm actually grateful to them because that led me to do a great deal of reading and expanded my knowledge. But not just my knowledge, my understanding much more. I had not quite grasped some of the essential elements. So Kashmiri friends would, of course, always tell you, for example, no discussion on Kashmir with Kashmiris will not start with history.
Yes.
And I used to think, I don't see why. And then when I started reading the history, I realized that there are certain unbroken threads. Well, obviously, every thread has a little break here and there, but a continuity of certain types of perceptions and self. I shouldn't say self-awareness. I'm losing the word. Self-constitution.
Okay. Also, particularly if I talk about the governance so far within the state and dealing with the central government since the issue arisen and the militancy came into existence, and there's a long history of 30 years of militancy and up and downs we have seen. And you have mentioned in this program that the situation has become worst. So what main observations as an interlocutor do you see?
Of course, my interlocution time is now along with 2010.
Yes,
8 years
yeah.
already, 2010 to 11.
As an author as well, yeah.
Right. But let me say, as an interlocutor, some learning lessons. I already knew to some extent what the history of broken promises was and political tensions and so on between the center and the state. Therefore, and then when we were appointed, it was a height of anger, obviously, because 120 young people had died. When we first went, quite understandably, there was a great deal of hostility towards us as well, not as individuals, but as representatives, so to speak. And yet, within 2 months, the tide started to turn. People started to come to us and to support our mission. And what I learned from that was a remarkable ability to forgive, not to forget. There was no forgetting ever, but the readiness to try to forgive and try to move forward. Obviously, when you live in those situations of conflict, the first and foremost desire is the conflict must end. But the willingness of people to do their part in helping end the conflict. I was very surprised, and I must say I feel very honored. Not personally again, but honored to know such people who had suffered so much and yet were ready to come along and find a way.
Across the religious lines, you might have met with all the people belonging to all the community while researching for the content for your book. What do you think? What the people have really distressed about, and how they are looking forward?
As I said, now it seems the situation is so much worse, and it's not just anger.
Have they lost hope in both the governments?
You mean
is
India,
a kind
Pakistan?
Of signal? No.
India,
I'm talking about the Indian government and the state government particularly.
There is no state government at the moment.
Yeah.
There's only a governor. So there's anger at that too. And yes, I would say that my impression is that there's very little hope of the current government. The trouble is that coalition didn't work. They were always contradicting each other. And it was in full public view.
Yes.
So I don't think that there was much faith in that government, but I think that there was when the Prime Minister made his speech in August, from the Red Fort. And then that was followed by the Ramzan ceasefire and the appointment of the interlocutor. I think there was hope that maybe some breakthrough will happen, at least in terms of this daily shootouts and encounter, security into armed militant conflict. Maybe that at least could be stopped.
Could it have been better?
The present ruling party had very strong opinions on Jammu and Kashmir without having a strong knowledge of the people of the state and especially of the valley. They did not understand the sentiments on the ground at all because they had not studied it. They had very little of a presence over there. And their strong opinions, of course, were based on a history of opposition right from independence on. They opposed 370. And then after so many years, they have come into power and they are the largest with a huge majority. I think that they thought, well, let us try to fulfill that 48-49 agenda of theirs.
Okay.
And that was it had a terrible impact on the ground in the valley, and it led to so much violence.
Okay,
security forces having full orders, actually. It's not that they wanted to do all of this.
So do you agree with Umar Abdullah about the autonomy which he spoke about? Because he also stressed stressed about the Union of Government of India promises to the state.
Yeah, no, we've said in our report that autonomy has to be the starting point. Okay. But then, we had argued, I should say we, I had argued back in 2006 that now we have to look at a formula which we can call autonomy plus. What was the plus? The plus was the soft borders between Pakistani-held Kashmir and our state of Jammu and Kashmir. That was the plus, that you get that relationship, both with those two parts that Pakistan controls and also through that with Pakistanis as well.
Okay.
I do believe actually that assembly elections and an actual elected government is deeply required in the state. Now, whether you've created conditions in which you saw what happened in the Panchayat polls, there's no reason to believe that it will be better if you have assembly elections, because the prevailing attitudes of a security-centered approach that is continuing. So it's, I'm afraid, somewhat of a gloomy prospect. I mean, I don't like to say that because we're talking about people losing their lives. And it really is important that they must...